Thanks a lot for staying with TVC Breakfast. So for about 32 years now, the International Gathering of Champions, also called IGOC, has hosted thousands of believers from various parts of the world, with guest speakers touching various topics like relationships, family life, health, amongst others. It's an annual event hosted by the senior pastor of the Kingsway International Christian Centre, Matthew Ashimolowo, in Kent, the United Kingdom, where Christians have testified to their own personal growth as believers. Now, this year's event will hold from August the 24th to the 28th. And joining us in the studio now to talk more on this is KICC's resident pastor in Nigeria. Of course, the church is based in Maryland here in Lagos. Pastor Femi Faseru is also the National Superintendent of KICC Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Pastor.
So we understand this year's event is themed Be Limitless. Tell us how it fits into the overall vision and mission of your church.
KICC is a church where we raise champions and we take territories. IGOC, as we know it now, International Gathering of Champions, started 32 years ago as warriors of righteousness. Warriors of righteousness in the sense that the visionary Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo was charged to equip believers to be able to walk the walk of righteousness. And so this conference started 32 years ago to be able to equip believers that way. And then shortly after then, it was then charged to expand the vision of that conference, so as not to limit it to just the walk of righteousness, but also for believers to be able to win in life. And that in itself comes to play with the vision of the ministry, which is to raise champions. So warriors of righteousness then became the gathering of champions. So we not only walk in the walk of righteousness, but we are also winning in life. We win in our relationship, in marriage, we win in business, in career, in the things that the Lord has called us to do. And then we began to see a lot of people were attracted from the international communities, from all the continents of the world. They started to attend the conference. But of course, it has to do with the quality of the depth of the teaching, and also the array of speakers that the Lord would lead Pastor Matthew to bring to the conference every year. I mean, name it. Baba Adeboye has been there to speak. Pastor Ayo Orishe Jafo has been there to speak in the past. Bishop Oyedepo has been there to speak in the past. Bishop Michael Konko has been there. We talk about Noel Jones, Bishop T.D. Jakes, from everywhere. So I think the caliber of speakers, the depth of the teaching has attracted people from all continents of the world into the conference. So it evolved into what we now know today as International Gathering of Champions. So this is a conference where believers are equipped to win in life, to do what God has called them to do, not only successfully, but also to do it excellently well and enjoy doing it God's way.
Okay, I was just going to ask if it's restricted for just believers or just Christians. But just also to add to that is this caliber of speakers you've mentioned, indeed, very, 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 very wonderful indeed. But perhaps you could give us an idea of what speakers to look forward to as regards to this particular gathering this time around. Yes,
IGOC, it's not only for Christians, even though it's focused on Christians. It's for everybody. Thousands of people give their lives to Christ in this conference. It's for everybody. People come. So Christians do come. come with their friends, come with their family members, and churches even come as a church group into the conference. So it's open to all, everyone, because everyone would indeed be blessed in there. But I must also say that this conference is a conference where a lot of people have testified that it is in that conference that they got their calling. It's in that conference that they got their ministry, and some have even gotten their zeal from that conference. So it's open to all, whether you are a believer, whether you want to know about what Jesus is all about, you want to know about what the power of God is all about, the principles of God. It's open to everyone, and it's not just for young believers. It's also for church leaders. It's also for preachers and teachers of the gospel, because everybody will benefit, everybody will be blessed. There is something you will take away from there.
I mean, we live in times where people are
I asked about the speakers.
openly,
I'm not sure you mentioned
okay, yeah, the
speakers,
issue of the speakers, right?
speakers
Tell us more about that.
Edition.
The composition of the speakers has laid upon the spirit of Pastor Matthew for this 32nd edition is so powerful. Powerful in the sense that you have the mix of the young and the old. You know, we have Pastor Matthew himself is going to be leading the team. We have Pastor Bishop T.D. Jakes, who needs no introduction to anybody. We have from America, we have Dr. Bill Winston. From the African continent, we have Dr. Mesa Otabil. And this year, we have young preachers. One of Pastor Matthew's sons in ministry that Pastor Matthew groomed for decades is going to be one of the speakers in there. Dr. Dipo Oluyomi will be speaking. Pastor Jerry Eze, who started his church ministry 8 years ago, but has the largest online prayer meeting, is going to be there to also share this year. We have Pastor Biodun Fatoyibo from Koza Abuja will also be there to share. So we actually have a wide range of speakers, and I believe that there's going to be something for everyone.
Right, quickly tell us about, you know, this array of speakers, interesting lineup, but really, what's the target?
The target is to stretch believers, is to equip believers to be able to, despite the challenges that they are faced, is for them to be able to be equipped so that they can be a blessing to the world, so that they can do their part in their community. That's the target, for them to, for everyone who comes in there to be ministered to with the word of the Lord, to be taught, to be equipped, so that when the conference is all over, we all go back into our world and our community and be a positive influence right in there, showcasing Christ and what he stands for.
And of course, we live in times where, you know, more and more people are opening, expressing their faith, Christianity, Islam, and otherwise. But, you know, coming back to the service that you and, of course, you know, other pastors, including the lead pastor, Matthew Ashimolowo, is offering through KICC, I find that the sense out there is some of the things that we are taught in the church. Now, there seems to be more pressure now to make these teachings more relevant as people face the secular world and its challenges. I don't know how you are faced with that challenge and how you strive to push this into your teachings.
Yeah, even this challenge is not something that we are faced with in our generation alone. The scripture says that do not be hearers of the word alone, but be doers of the word. So practicalizing the word of God that we learn, that we teach, has always been a focal point of ministry, even in Bible times. And that same challenge is there, but we keep on encouraging our congregation. It is not about just come, enjoy the service. It's about taking the word and getting into your world and make a positive impact with your word, with the word that you have received. And the beauty of IGOC conference, particularly this year's one, is that the wisdom that is going to be shared is going to be shared in such a way that it will be practical. So it's not something that is just going to be abstract. That's what I found personally with IGOC conferences, because we have what we call the School of Ministries, the daytime School of Ministry. So it's not just gathering in the evening and, you know, just jumping up. There is School of Ministry where we are taught on practical wisdom to carry out the things we want to do, whether in ministry, whether in business, whether in career, whether you are a community leader or you are in a government position, or whichever way you are to contribute in life.
All right, so it's an annual event. I understand there are sessions. It's good. I'm happy to see that we have some Nigerian music ministers who would be at the event this year. I've seen the likes of Sinach and Nathaniel Bassi.
Choma Jesus.
Yeah.
Choma Jesus.
Jesus.
Even though Muyiwa Olariwaju is resident in the UK.
Oh, he's a Nigerian.
He's a Nigerian. He's
turning
big,
point.
It's big. Yes, it's big. It's actually
Right.
Big B's.
Right. They're related.
Brother.
Oh,
Yeah,
brother.
brothers.
Interesting.
Interesting. Well, so I'm sure registration is required from what I saw for this event.
Yes, there is need for registration, whether you want to attend actual. So we're actually encouraging people to come to the UK if they can and be part of it in actual, in person. But if you
It's
also...
where in the UK?
It's going to be in KICC Prayer City, is in Kent.
All right.
If you want to, if you're not able to come to the UK, yes, you can watch virtually. But for registration, they should please visit igoc.org.uk. All the information about the registration.
Can you go by that again? IGOC.
igoc.org.uk.
Right.
igoc.org.uk.
Right, Pastor Faseru, let's pass the remaining few minutes we have now to talk about, you know, the state of the nation. And I would start my question in looking at the role Christians have played so far in nation building. Some have said, what good have Christians brought on board? If you look at, level of corruption, they've said, okay, so what good? All the teachings learned in the church, how much have you practicalized them? They say Nigeria is saturated with many churches, but then what value has this brought? How has this enhanced development and peace in the society? And on the other hand, there are some people who are saying even now, as we're heading to the general election of next year, that, religion should be left in private and not in public spaces, as against what we are seeing now, that Christians are speaking more and more, is speaking about its own choice of the next crop of leaders. I've asked two questions. I don't know if we'll be able to, measure this in your answer.
Yeah, I want to say that the contribution of the church in our nation cannot be overlooked. I believe that Nigeria is blessed with Christians in Nigeria. 2020, no one can still explain why people were not just falling off and dying like it was predicted when
during COVID.
COVID-19 pandemic.
Nobody can explain that, but I know that Nigeria is a praying nation. Could that be one of the reasons why we were hit like that? So I just leave that. When you look at statistics all around Africa, and you look at the epidemics of things like diseases, even if you look at HIV, AIDS, why don't we have high numbers like they have in South Africa? Because somebody keeps on preaching to people on Sundays, on Wednesdays, on Tuesdays, because of the churches. Why don't we have, despite what we have in Nigeria, sometimes you look around and it could be almost like an hopeless situation we see. When we talk about economy, when we talk about the youth, we've been to school and out of school. Parents have spent their money, their savings to send their kids to school. They come out of school, there is no job or no gainful employment. And yet these guys are still happy, they're still alive, they're not throwing themselves into the lagoon. Why? Because there are churches that are equipping them with hope, even in the midst of hopelessness. We cannot underestimate the work that God is doing and using the churches to do. Believers are contributing.
Right.
Even though
and then to the latter
part,
of my question now, of course, APC, PDP and the likes, they've come out with their candidates and all, but the loudest reaction has been the emergence of a Muslim ticket of the APC. Where do you stand in this debate? My
stance on this is basically for everyone to go get their PVC, because that will give you a right. That will give you your right to vote.
Right.
And your right to vote will basically be for you to vote for the candidate of your own choice.
Resident Pastor, KICC Maryland, and National Superintendent. Apologies, Kelly, we've run out of time. We thank you very much for your contributions on TVC Breakfast this morning, Pastor Femi Faseru.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate what you're doing with the church.